Color. Most people know me as the daughter of the late great Bernie Mac. Shout out to Viral Wave TV. Thanks for the interview. Interesting. So he wasn't famous when I was growing up. He became famous as I got older. Like I was almost out of high school by the time he was becoming famous. Like when I graduated from high school, Friday had just come out, and then that's when he was starting to get more movie roles. But even before he became famous, there's never been a time in my life where I wasn't known as his daughter. I remember, as a kid walking to the neighborhood corner store, and the guys on the playground would be like, "Hey, there's Black's daughter right there." It's that's always been the umbrella hanging over my head that I am my father's daughter, and it was okay at home. Like he was dad. That was what I knew. Where I struggled was how everyone else began to react towards me, especially once he became famous. I like overnight, I remember when I was in school, I used to have his headshot and hanging on my locker. And I was a geeky, nerdy kid. Like I was the kid that, most people really didn't really pay attention to me. And I remember my locker partner, she was the girl that all the guys were like, ooh. And I remember like some of the guys that were like at our locker to carry her books, where they were like, "Oh, who's that black ugly nigga on the wall?" And she was like, "Oh, that's my locker partner's father." She said he's a comedian or something. And that was one year. And then the following year, he did Def Jam. And then all of a sudden, it was like, oh my gosh, oh, it's you. That's your dad. And then the following year, that was his second Def Jam appearance. And all of a sudden, people were just like hating him. And, oh, I can't stand her. She thinks she's all that. And then everything just became about just being his daughter. Like all of a sudden, I didn't have a name anymore. I didn't have my own identity. And that is something that I struggled with for a good chunk of my life. So him as daddy, that was fine. Like that was what I knew. It was outside, the people outside of us that I guess made me question my worth and like my identity and who I was. So I struggled to find my own space, my own name, without being known as Bernie Mac's daughter. So the pros, of course, are it's your parent. Like, so you get to say, "Hey, look at my dad." For me, I feel like it's a little different because unlike a lot of other celebrity kids, my dad wasn't famous when I was born. My parents got married at 19. Like they were 19 years old. 2 weeks later, my dad turned 20. 4 months after that, I was born. And so I feel like it was a big plus to be able to watch him build his career from the ground up. I think that was just a beautiful thing, a wonderful sight to behold. And I got to watch it happen in real time. Obviously, there are the perks that come with him having his career. And, as we started moving on up, we got to see and experience a life that we could have only dreamed of. Also, just watching his influence and impact on other people, to watch people starting to react to him and just, "Oh my God, I love you, Bernie Mac." Oh, it's beautiful. And I will say though, as everything's a blessing and a curse, right? Other people, that can be a big con, because fans can get really possessive, right? Because people, they watch you, especially once he got the television show, he's in their home on their televisions every week. So folks really feel like they know him. And then by proxy, they feel like they know you. So you're not as free to be yourself. You have to be on guard, because now every time I'm out, I run the risk of, "Oh my God, Bernie Mac's daughter." Bernie Mac's daughter was in here. She was not nice. You get that. And then I got my first taste of this last year. I did an interview last year with the podcast called Can We Talk Podcast. And the topic was healing the parental wound and its effects on your adult relationships. And I talked about, just the healing that I had to do from just how my dad was like. I mean, let's face it, nobody escapes childhood unscathed, right? And I didn't say anything, out of pocket about my dad. I don't have anything out of pocket to say about him, right? But after the podcast, all of these news outlets just took, like, every headline was like, Bernie Mac's daughter says he was abusive. Bernie Mac's daughter talks about his cruelty as a father. Bernie Mac's daughter says that, and I didn't say what they said, but the public saw it and read it, and just eviscerated me. And I'd seen it happen, I'd seen it happen with my dad, but experiencing it is something completely different. So it is, that's a con. And even just the con, sometimes you just want to be, right? You hear how celebrities are like, sometimes I just want to just be myself. Like, it's that. And it's, for me, I feel like it's a bit magnified since he's died, because folks have elevated him to this almost like deity-like status where it's just like he's damn near Jesus. And don't get me wrong, great man, but he wasn't Jesus. And it's really hard to have people separate the celebrity from, the man. And as such, because he's not a man, that I kind of get it by proxy, and that I would say is those are the cons.